Hi everyone.
Hi.
It's Saturday Storytime. So we're just gonna kind of sit here for a little bit, see if anybody's gonna join in, and then we'll get started. Okay, these are my littles. Yep, I got cookies. We just had our lunch. All right, everyone. So we're gonna start off our Saturday Storytime with Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day by Judith Viorst and illustrated by Cruz. I just wanted to start off this book because sometimes we always start off, or we have a day that's just terrible, horrible, no good, very bad, right?
Yeah.
So we don't let that affect us.
And tomorrow we can have
And tomorrow we can always have a better day. All right.
or a bad day.
All right, you ready to start? Okay. I went to sleep with gum in my mouth, and now there's gum in my hair. And when I got out of bed this morning, I tripped on the skateboard and by mistake dropped my sweater in the sink while the water was running. I know. And I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. He does not look very happy that he did all those things, huh? I wouldn't be happy if I had a wet sweater to start off my day. At breakfast, Anthony found a Corvette Stingray car kit in his breakfast cereal box. Nick found a junior undercover agent code ring in his cereal box. But in my breakfast cereal box, all I found was breakfast cereal. I think I'll move to Australia.
I actually took 2 bites
You
out of it.
did. Okay, he's eating all the cereal. I'd be bummed if everyone else was getting prizes in their cereal and I wasn't. But, you know what? Cereal's still good.
Yeah, sometimes I don't have stuff in my cereal, but I'm okay.
Yeah. In the carpool, Miss Gibson let Becky sit by the window. Aubrey and Elliot got seats by the window, too. I said I was scrunched. I said I was smushed. I said if I don't get a seat by the window, I'm going to be car sick. No one even answered. I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Yes, he's in the car.
Guys, sometimes I open the window so I can feel the wind.
Yeah, sometimes you're just not going to get a window seat, and that happens. At school, Mrs. Dickens liked Paul's picture of a sailboat better than my picture of an invisible castle. At singing time, she said I sing too loud. At counting time, she said I left out 16. Who needs 16? I could tell it was going to be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day.
I don't know if I skipped some of 15.
Yeah, you do skip 15, but we learned that we probably shouldn't skip our numbers, huh? I could tell because Paul said I wasn't his best friend anymore. He said that Philip Parker was his best friend, and that Albert Mayo was his next best friend, and I was only his third best friend. I hope you sit on a tack, I said to Paul. I hope the next time you get a double-decker strawberry ice cream cone, the ice cream part falls and lands in Australia. That's not very nice, huh? It's sad that his friends were saying stuff like that to him. It doesn't seem like he is having a very good day. That is very mean.
And that's rude.
That's very rude, huh? There were cupcakes in Philip Parker's lunch bag, and Albert got a Hershey bar with almonds, and Paul's mom gave him a piece of jelly roll with little coconut sprinkles on top. Guess whose mother forgot to put dessert in their lunch bag? It was a terrible, horrible, no good.
Mommy doesn't put dessert in my lunch bag because dessert is not allowed in my school.
Oh.
Or candy.
But you would be very disappointed if everyone else got dessert and you didn't, right? That wouldn't feel very good.
Yeah, and all my classmates would get in trouble if they saw treats in the school.
Mm-hmm.
No treats allowed in my school.
Oh, I know. All right, well, let's continue. Hey, read. Okay, that's what it was, because after school, my mom took us to the dentist, and Dr. Fields found a cavity just in me. Come back next week and I'll fix it, said Dr. Fields. Next week, I said, I'm going to Australia. Ugh. It'd be such a bummer to go to the dentist office and find a cavity. If you don't know what a cavity is, it's a little hole that's in your teeth that has to be filled in, so other things can't go into it.
Yeah, because
Okay, can we continue?
see that lost
That's not a cavity, though. That's just a lost tooth, Pumpkin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, you want to continue the story time? Okay. On the way downstairs, the elevator door closed on my foot, and while we were in the waiting for Mom to get the car, Anthony made me fall where it was muddy. And when I started to cry because of the mud, Nick says I was a crybaby. And oh, that doesn't look good. While I was punching Nick for saying crybaby, my mom came back with the car and scolded me for being muddy and fighting. I was having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. I told everyone. No one answered. Ugh. Wouldn't be nice. That is very, very rude. And yeah, his brother shouldn't have pushed him in the bed, but do you think he also should have been fighting? No. So we went to the shoe store to buy some sneakers. Anthony chose white ones with blue stripes. Nick chose red ones with white stripes. I chose blue ones with red stripes. But the storeman said they were sold out. They made me buy plain white ones. But they can't make me wear them as I go to the shoe store.
Yeah, guys, I have to go to Target to get me some new boots, but they have any because my pink ones have the hole in their
Hi. When we picked up my dad in his office, he said I couldn't play with his copy machine, but I forgot. He also said to watch out for books on his desk, and I was careful. Yeah, there's a dog. I was careful as I could be, except for my elbow. He said don't fool around with the phone, but I think I called Australia. Dad said please don't pick him up anymore. It was a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Looks like his daddy is having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. What do you think his mommy is too? Hey. That's really awesome. Can you give sister Beckard up?
No.
All right. Hi. I know. There was lima beans for dinner. I hate lima beans. There was kissing on the TV. I hate kissing. I know. And you're just having that bad day.
I don't actually.
Come here, little one.
I do like to kiss people.
Okay.
Abadi.
Again, thank you. Sorry, guys.
Thank you.
Things happen with little ones, huh?
Oh.
I know. Are we doing story time?
Yes. Let's keep it
No. Sometimes when you're having a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, any simple thing starts to get kind of upsetting to you, huh?
Guys, I don't. Well,
Okay, if we continue to read and we keep pausing to talk, are we going to get through story time?
Thank you. Please, come here.
no.
My bath was too hot. I got soap in my eyes. My marble went down the drain, and I had to wear my railroad train pajamas. I hate my railroad train pajamas. So, again, sometimes a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day just affects you so much. When I went to bed, Nick took back my pillow he said I could keep, and the Mickey Mouse nightlight burned out, and I bit my tongue. The cat wants to sleep with Anthony and not me. It has been a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Mom says some days are like that, which is very true. Even in Australia. It's very true. Sometimes you just have a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. But what will you do with that?
But did that kid go to Australia?
No, he didn't go to Australia. But you know, when you have a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, it happens. But you just try to learn from it and get through it. And you know, the next day, Kaylee, what do we say if we have a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day? What can we do for the next day? Be better.
Let me tell you a story about it.
Hey, honey, we got 2 more stories to go through.
No, Ma, it's a short story.
No, honey,
Version.
I know it's absolutely wonderful, but I think we should just get through some of our stories.
Can I tell them after story time?
Yes, I would love to hear your story after story time.
It's when I stepped on the baby.
Okay, well, right now, okay, so our next story is going to be A Bad Case of Stripes. This is one of my favorites from when I was a kid, so I hope you enjoy it too. All right, Bad Case of Stripes by David Shannon.
Baby.
I know. Sorry, guys. Camilla Cream loved lima beans, but she never ate them. All of her friends hated lima beans, and she wanted to fit in.
No!
Camilla was always worried about what other people thought of her. Today, she was fretting even more than usual. It was the first day of school. She couldn't decide on what to wear. There were so many people to impress. She tried on 42 outfits, but none seemed quite right. She put on a pretty red dress and looked in the mirror. Then she screamed. Oh, there's Camilla trying on all those dresses. So what's going to matter with her? Her mother ran into the room and she screamed too. Oh my heavens, she cried. You're completely covered in stripes. This was certainly true. Camilla was striped from head to toe. She looked like a rainbow. Mrs. Cream felt Camilla's forehead. Do you feel all right, she asked. I feel fine, Camilla answered. Hi.
Okay.
Hold on really quick. I've got a little one that's trying to grab stuff. Sorry. Okay. I feel fine, Camilla answered. But just look at me. You go right to bed this instant, her mother ordered. No going to school today. Camilla was relieved. She didn't want to miss the first day of school, but she was afraid of what the other kids would say. And she had no idea what to wear with these crazy stripes. Goodness. How would you feel if you were covered in stripes like that? Would you care what other people thought, or would you just go anyway?
Well, I have to cover her face too.
Well, let's see what's going on. Kids get crazy, huh?
No!
That afternoon, Dr. Bumble came to examine Camilla. Most extraordinary, he exclaimed. I've never seen anything like this. Are you having coffee? Sneezing, runny nose, aches, pains, hot flashes, dizziness, drowsiness, shortness of breath, or uncontrollable twitching? No, Camilla told him. I feel fine. Well then, Dr. Bumble said, turning to Mrs. Cream, I don't see any reason why she shouldn't go to school tomorrow. Here's some ointment that should clear up those stripes in a few days. If it doesn't, you know where to reach me. And off he went. No. The next day was a disaster. Everyone at school laughed at Camilla. They called her Camilla the Crayon and knighted the living lollipop. She tried her best to act as if everything was normal. But when the class said the Pledge of Allegiance, her stripes turned red, white, and blue, and she broke out into stars. Oh my goodness. It's not nice, those kids calling her names just because she looks a certain way. The other kids thought it was great. One yelled, let's see some purple polka dots. Sure enough, Camilla turned all purple and polka dotty. Someone else shouted, checkerboard! And a pattern of squares covered her skin. Soon everyone was calling out different shapes and colors, and poor Camilla was changing faster than you can change channels on a television. Oh, poor Camilla. That's just not a very kind thing to do.
Letters.
I know, she broke out into some letters too. That night, Mr. Harms, the school principal, called. I'm sorry, Mrs. Cream, he said. I'm going to have to ask you to keep Camilla home from school. She's too much of a distraction. I've been getting calls from other parents. They're afraid these stripes may be contagious. Camilla was so embarrassed. She couldn't believe that 2 days ago everyone liked her, Now nobody wanted to be in the same room as her. Her father tried to make her feel better. "Is there anything I can get you, sweetheart?" he asked. "No, thank you," Camilla sighed. What she really wanted was a nice plate of lima beans. But she'd been laughed at enough for one day. It's never good to feel bad about how you are and have other people make you feel like...
Mommy, I think Grace and Dad are outside.
Maybe. We'll see. "Well, yes, I see," Dr. Bumble mumbled when Mr. Cream phoned the next day. "I think I better bring in the specialist. We'll be right over." About an hour later, Dr. Bumble arrived with 4 people in long white coats. He introduced the Creams. "This is Miss Dr. Grope, Dr. Sponge, Dr. Cricket, and Dr. Young." Then the specialist went to work on Camilla. They squeezed and jabbed and tapped and tested. It was very uncomfortable. "Well, it's not the mumps," concluded Dr. Grope. "Or the measles," said Dr. Sponge. "Definitely not the chicken pox," put in Dr. Cricket. "Or sunburn," said Dr. Young. "Tried these," said the specialist, and they handed her a bottle filled with different colored pills. "Take one of each before bed," said Dr. Grope, and they filed out the door, followed by Dr. Bumble. All of those specialists checking Camilla out, trying to figure out if they can help her. I wonder if those pills are going to help or not.
That's how you turn out to a big pill.
That night, Camilla took her medicine. It was awful. When she woke up the next morning, she did feel different. But when she got dressed, her clothes didn't fit right. She looked in the mirror, and there, staring back at her, was a giant, multicolored pill with her face on it. Seems like everything that's around Camilla seems to be affecting her in some way. Dr. Bumble rushed over as soon as Mrs. Cream called. This time, instead of specialists, he brought the experts. Dr. Grode and Mr. Mellon were the finest scientific minds in the land. Once again, Camilla was poked and prodded, looked at and listened to. The experts wrote down lots of numbers, and then they huddled together and whispered. Dr. Grode finally spoke. "Might be a virus," he announced with authority. Suddenly, fuzzy little virus balls appeared on Camilla. "Or possibly a form of bacteria," said Mr. Mellon. Out popped squiggly little bacteria tails. "Or it could be a fungus," added Dr. Grode. Instantly, Camilla was covered with different colored fungus splotches. The experts looked at Camilla, then at each other. "We need to go take a look at these numbers back at the labs," that Dr. Grode exclaimed. "We'll call you when we know something." But the experts didn't have a clue, much less a cure. See the experts taking a look at Camilla, but everything that they suggest just keeps popping up. Again, what people say seem to be affecting Camilla a lot. By now, the TV news crew had found out about Camilla. Reporters of every channel were outside her house telling the story of the bizarre case of the incredible changing kid. Soon the huge crowd was camped out on their front lawn. All of those news reporters trying to check in on Camilla and see what the heck is going on. The Creams were swamped with all kinds of remedies: psychologists, herbalists, allergists, nutritionalists, psychics, an old medicine man, a guru, even a veterinarian. Each so-called cure only added to Camilla's strange appearance until it was hard to even recognize her. She sprouted roots and berries and crystals and feathers and a very long furry tail. Nothing seemed to work. See? Look at all of those suggestions and cures are still affecting Camilla outwardly. One day, a woman who called herself an environmental therapist claimed that she could cure Camilla. "Close your eyes," she said. "Breathe deeply and become one with your room." "I wish you hadn't said that," said Camilla. Slowly, she started to melt into the walls of her room. Her bed became her mouth, her nose her dresser. The 2 paintings were her eyes. The therapist screamed and ran out the house. "What are we going to do?" cried Mrs. Cream. "It just keeps getting worse and worse." She began to sob. See? Now Camilla has turned into her room. So again, people's words are affecting her, and she's having that outward experience. At that moment, Mr. Cream heard a quiet knock on the front door. He opened, and there stood an old woman who was plump and sweet as a strawberry. "Excuse me," she said brightly. "I think I can help." Let's see if she can help. She went to Camilla's room and looked around. "My goodness," she said with a shake of her head. "What we have here is a bad case of stripes. One of the worst I've ever seen." She pulled out a container of small green beans from her bag. "Here," she said. "This might do the trick." "Are those magic beans?" asked Mrs. Cream. "Oh my, no," replied the kind old woman. "There's no such thing. These are just plain old lima beans." "I bet you'd like some, wouldn't you?" she asked Camilla. Camilla wanted a big, heaping plateful of lima beans more than anything, but she was too afraid to admit it. "Yuck," she said. "No one likes lima beans, especially me." "Oh dear," said the old woman sadly. "I guess I was wrong about you." She put the beans back in her bag and started towards the door. Camilla watched the old woman walk away. Those beans would taste so good, and being laughed out for eating them was nothing compared to what she had been going through. She finally couldn't stand it. "Wait," she cried. "The truth is, I really love lima beans." "I thought so," said the old woman with a smile. She took a handful of beans and plopped them in Camilla's mouth. Said Camilla. See? It's Camilla's room. Old lady's given her some of those lima beans that she really, really loves and wants. Suddenly, the branches, feathers, and squiggly tails began to disappear. The whole room swirled around. When it stopped, there stood Camilla, and everything was back to normal. "I'm cured," she shouted. "Yes," said the old woman. "I knew the real you was in there somewhere." She patted Camilla on the head, and then she went outside and vanished. See, Camilla is all hurt by herself.
In the crowd.
Afterward, Camilla wasn't quite the same. Some of the kids out at school said she was weird. She didn't care a bit. She ate all the lima beans she wanted, and she never had a touch of stripes again. See? Just because people might not understand you doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. Continue being who you are, true, and that's all that matters. And your happiness is the best thing in the world. Okay, we have one more book, and I think Kaylee would like to introduce it if she wants to. Kaylee, what book is this?
Chrysanthemum.
Chrysanthemum.
I was not going to tell you that. Can I have one of those?
Dad, if you go ask Daddy, he will go get it for you. All right, Chrysanthemum by Kevin Hennix. The day she was born was the happiest in her parents' lives. "She's perfect," said her father. "Absolutely," said her mother. And she was. She was absolutely perfect. She loved... Sorry. "Her name must be everything she is," said her mother. "Her name must be absolutely perfect," said her father. And it was. Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew. And when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. A little baby Chrysanthemum.
Look,
And as she's growing and growing and growing.
look, I got pink and blue.
I see.
I might want to introduce you to these.
Those are macaroons. I hope you enjoy them. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. She loved the way it sounded when her father called her for dinner. She loved the way it sounded when she whispered to herself in the bathroom mirror. "Hey, why don't you go ask Daddy and he'll get you something." Chrysanthemum, Chrysanthemum, Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum loved the way her name looked when she was written in ink on an envelope. She loved the way it looked when it was written with icing on her birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it herself with that orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, Chrysanthemum, Chrysanthemum. Oh, my goodness. It's nice to just love your name, huh? Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect. And then she started school. On the first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile. She ran all the way to school. Hooray, said Chrysanthemum, school. But when Mrs. Chud took roll, everyone giggled upon hearing Chrysanthemum's name. Chrysanthemum's all happy she gets to start school, but not quite understanding why everyone's laughing at her name. And there's the teacher.
Have their names?
Sure. We got Dawn, Eve, Louis, Al, Les, Kay, Max, Sue, Bill, Pat, Tom, Sam, Ken, Joe, Rita, Victoria, Chrysanthemum. Said Joe. It scarcely fits on your name tag, said Rita, pointing. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. You're named after a flower. Chrysanthemum wilted. She didn't think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful.
Mommy, look, you match my dress.
It does match your dress. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Miss Chud that Chrysanthemum's name was spelled with 13 letters. That's exactly half as many letters as there are in the entire alphabet, Victoria exclaimed. Thank you for sharing, Victoria, said Miss Chud. Now please put your head down. See, there's Victoria and Joe and Rita not being quite nice to little Chrysanthemum. Victoria having to point out about her name. I think Chrysanthemum's name's absolutely perfect, and I hope you do too, because that's not very nice to make fun of someone's name just because you don't understand it. Okay. If I had a name like yours, I'd change it, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. I wish I could, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School's no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. My name's too long. It scarcely fits on my name tag. I'm named after a flower. Oh, pish, said her mother. Your name is beautiful and precious and priceless and fascinating and winsome, said her father. It's everything you are, said her mother. Absolutely perfect. See, it's not very nice how Victoria was making Chrysanthemum feel. But her mother and father are right there for her comfort and what she needs. And to tell her that everything's going to be okay. Honey, I love your shoes. They're absolutely wonderful. But why don't you go over there if you don't want to be a part of the story time? Okay. Chrysanthemum felt much better after her favorite dinner, macaroni cheese with ketchup. It's my favorite too. And an evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that her name was Jane. It was an extremely pleasant dream. See? Whoa. Family's making her feel really good and loved and safe. And even though she changed her name in her dream, at least she's comfortable right now, huh? The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable jumper and walked to school as slowly as she could. She dragged her feet in the dirt. Chrysanthemum, 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 she wrote. She even looks like a flower, said Victoria as Chrysanthemum entered the playground. Let's pick her, said Rita, pointing. Let's smell her, said Joe. Chrysanthemum wilted. She didn't think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. Dreading going to school because people were making fun of her. It's seriously not a nice thing to make fun of someone just because, again, you don't understand.
Yeah, sometimes that happens to me.
The rest of the day wasn't much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, a chrysanthemum is a flower. It lives in the garden with worms and other dirty things. Thank you for sharing with us, Victoria, said Miss Chud. Now, put your head down. I can't believe your name, said Victoria as the students lined up to go home. Neither can I, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. As Victoria just can't really help herself and make fun of Chrysanthemum. I don't think she really realizes how much that's hurting Chrysanthemum's feelings. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School's no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. They said I even look like a flower. They pretend to pick me and smell me. Oh, pish, said her mother. They're just jealous and envious and begrudging and discontent and jaundiced, said her father. Who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours, said her mother. After all, it's absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt a trifle better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake with buttercream icing. And another evening filled with hugs and kisses and purchasing. And again, her family made her feel better just to be who she is. Because she is. She's absolutely perfect just how she is. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum. She sprouted leaves and petals. Victoria picked her and plucked the leaves and petals one by one until there was nothing left but a scrawny stem. It was the worst nightmare in Chrysanthemum's life. Chrysanthemum wore her outfit of 7 pockets the next morning. She loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and good luck charms.
4.
Chrysanthemum took the longest route possible to school, and she stopped to stare at every flower. Chrysanthemum, 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 the flower said. Poor Chrysanthemum's having a nightmare because of all the words that have been said to her. I'm sure some of us have had those.
I have to sleep fast right now because I have dreams, bad dreams, and nightmares.
Yeah.
And I face the nightmares.
Yeah, you do face your nightmares, huh? And see, Chrysanthemum's trying to make herself feel better as she starts school by wearing her most luckiest outfit and take all of her good luck charms with her. See how it works out for her. That morning, the students were introduced to Miss Twinkle, the music teacher. Her voice was something out of a dream, as everything else about her. The students were speechless. They thought Miss Twinkle was an indescribable wonder. They went out of their way to make a nice impression. Miss Twinkle led the students in scales. Then she assigned roles of the class musical. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen. Rita was chosen as a spiffy butterfly princess. Jo was chosen as the all-important pixie messenger. And Chrysanthemum was chosen as a daisy. Right? There's Miss Twinkle. And all the kids enjoying the roles that they've been assigned for their musical. Chrysanthemum's a daisy, chrysanthemum's a daisy, Jo, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it was wildly funny. Chrysanthemum wilted. She didn't think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. What's so humorous? Asked Miss Twinkle. Chrysanthemum was the answer. Her name is so long, said Jo. It scarcely fits on her name tag, said Rita, pointing. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. She's named after a flower. See, Jo, Rita, and Victoria thinking it's so funny that Chrysanthemum has been assigned as a flower. Miss Twinkle not quite understanding what's going on and why someone should be making fun of someone else's name or what they're doing. My name is long, said Miss Twinkle. It is, said Jo. My name could scarcely fit on a name tag, said Miss Twinkle. It would, said Rita. And, said Miss Twinkle, I'm named after too. You are, said Victoria. Yes, said Miss Twinkle. My name is Delphinium. Delphinium Twinkle. And if my baby is a girl, I'm considering Chrysanthemum as a name. It's absolutely perfect. Chrysanthemum could scarcely believe her ears. She blushed. She beamed. She bloomed. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. See Miss Twinkle? And she's pregnant with the little baby. It's very interesting that someone that you admire also has the same traits as someone that they're making fun of.
I'm going to go see what they're up to. Let me put on my play shoes.
All right. Jo, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. Call me Marigold, said Jo. I'm Carnation, said Rita, pointing. My name is Lily of the Valley, said Victoria. Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She knew it. See, as Jo, Rita, and Victoria start to realize that just because someone's name is different doesn't mean it's any less wonderful. Epilogue, which also means an afterwards of a story. Overall, the class musical was a huge success. Chrysanthemum was absolutely perfect as a daisy. Victoria made the only mistake. She completely forgot her lines. As the dainty fairy queen, Chrysanthemum thought it was wildly funny, and she giggled throughout the entire dance of the flowers. Eventually, Miss Twinkle gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and of course, she named her Chrysanthemum. Always like that. Love that story. Well, I hope you enjoyed the story time, and I wish that you take away just a little bit out of each story. Like, again, with the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Even though you have one day, that doesn't make the whole thing an absolute loss, and we always try to be a little bit better. And with the bad case of stripes, my takeaway from it, and I hope it's yours, is that just because you like something and that other people don't like doesn't mean you need to change yourself. You are absolutely wonderful as yourself, and being different makes you the most wonderful, and that is a great superpower to have. And also with Chrysanthemum, again, like with the bad case of stripes, you are absolutely perfect. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and a safe one at that. And I'll see you next Saturday for our story time. Bye, guys.